Today we're going to chat on exactly what a day on safari is like. What you can expect from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed in the evening. Bearing in mind that it will depend on what time of year you're traveling and the location you're traveling to. The safari industry is a very, very early morning wake-up industry. You will be getting up early, which is a bit of a shock to a lot of people, especially in the summer months when the sun comes up. It can be as early as 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and in the winter as late, in inverted commas, as 6, 6:30.
So when you're staying at a safari lodge, whether you're at a tented camp or a brick-built lodge, there will be a pre-dawn wake-up call. And if you're in a tent, someone will come and stand outside and just say, knock, knock. If you're in a room, you might get a phone call or a knock on your door. As Terry mentioned, this is going to be pre-dawn. You will then get up and there'll be tea and coffee served, and you'll get some rusks, which are dried biscuits. There may be some continental options available, but it's just a snack to get you ready for your early morning game drive. You need to be aware that the temperature is going to change during the duration of your drive. So particularly if you're traveling in June, July, there could even be frost on the ground. You are going to need your beanie, your gloves, a warm coat and trousers. But during the morning, the temperature is going to increase, so you want clothes that you can layer on and off. Most safari lodges, when you're on your game drive, they will provide you with blankets. Some will even provide you with hot water bottles if it's a particularly chilly morning. You're going to need to have some water with you. You're going to need your sunscreen with you. Don't forget that just because it's so cold when you're getting up in the morning and it's still dark. You'll meet your guide and your group. You'll get onto your game viewing vehicle. If you're on a traditional vehicle safari, you'll then set off on your drive for 3 to 4 hours. Alternatively, you might be doing a bushwalk. During your bushwalk or your game drive, you're going to have photographic opportunities. Always a good idea to have a spare camera battery with you, because if there's a particularly exciting wildlife viewing, you don't want to run out of battery whilst you're busy recording this special event. During the morning, there will be a break. The guide will tell you if it is somewhere safe that you can get out of the vehicle. They will have reconnoitred the area and be aware that there are no predators nearby, so they will serve coffee and snacks. You'll be able to get out of the vehicle, stretch your legs slightly, but don't get too far from the vehicle. Follow your guide's advice at all times. At the end of your game drive, you'll return to the safari lodge where you'll be served a brunch, and that's the end of your early morning excitement on safari.
Once you've returned from your morning game drive, you get back to your lodge. You basically will have brunch at the lodge, and then after that you'll have downtime to relax, sit by the pool, read your book, maybe have another nap because you've been up so early. Use one of the other facilities at the lodge. They might have, depending on where you're staying or what level accommodation you're staying at, they might have spa facilities. You might go for a relaxing massage, or just sit in the lounge or bar area and relax and kick back. After that, you'd usually have lunch at the lodge, or a light lunch and an afternoon tea, and that's normally in preparation for your afternoon and evening game drives. Normally between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, depending on what time of year it is, you'll set off on an afternoon game drive. This is generally the sundowner opportunities. Drive into the early evening, taking in the sunset, doing the late afternoon game drive for those great photographic opportunities. There might be a stop for a sundowner in the area, and then, making your way back to the lodge just before the sun disappears to basically freshen up in time for, dinner, drinks, and before dinner.
So at some lodges, particularly if you're staying in a private concession, it's actually possible to do a night safari. You're out on your game viewing vehicle after sunset. There will usually be a tracker on the vehicle who has a special light, and this will be shone in order to look for the eyes of the nocturnal animals such as leopards, hyenas and bush babies. So as the sun goes down and the moon comes up, this gives you a chance to see a different set of animals and different species to those that you might see during your morning and afternoon game drives. So it is always worth asking whether your safari includes a location where you will be able to do a nighttime safari.
Generally a mixture of traditional African cuisine mixed with European cuisine, but it's also very important to note all dietary requirements are taken care of. That kind of information definitely needs to be conveyed to us before your arrival, and we will then make sure that you're catered for. depending on where you are and what lodge. Lots of different activities can take place. They often will have a traditional cultural dance, storytelling, and often is the case if the nights are clear, stargazing can happen. Often a lot of the lodges, the same guides that took you around are expert astrologers, and they will be able to point out various constellations and generally keep you entertained.
If you're staying within camps or lodges which are inside national parks, game drives, safaris are restricted to opening and closing hours of the park gates. Game drives will be within set operating hours. They have to follow strict game times and keep to basically the public access areas. If you're staying in a private reserve, for example, like Sabi Sands, there's a bit more flexibility with that. So let's say you're out on a late afternoon game drive, you've come across an incredible sighting. The guide doesn't have to then leave that sighting and rush back to get back in time before the gates close, because if they get back later than what they're expected, they're going to get penalized for that, and there'll be various repercussions. So staying in a private reserve has those advantages. Off-road driving, night safari options, also walking safaris available, and just all that more flexibility inside a private reserve versus a national park.
And also going back to where you're doing your safari and what other activities are available, and that very much depends on where you're going to be. You know, if you were to do a safari in Chobe National Park, for example, and then go back to Vic Falls, you have plenty of optional activities that you can also add. This will vary from cultural activities, village walks, local interactions, to adventure activities, everything from whitewater rafting to canoeing to bungee jumping to water-based activities. If you're in the Okabanga Delta, where in the morning section you'll do a game drive, and then in the afternoon you will go out on a mokoro or a boat. It can be very varied, but obviously it very much depends on what area in. Various lodges as well that cater for wellness. At these lodges you can go and do a safari, you can come back, you can do a yoga session, you can do a meditation session. They are very specific to these needs, and day to day varies greatly. Depends on where you are, what time of year you're going, what you want in terms of additional activities.
So when you're thinking about planning your safari or getting assistance from your travel consultant, you need to consider your destination, the season of year you're traveling, which will affect where you're possibly wanting to see, which type of lodge is going to suit your preference and your budget, the park regulations where you're planning to visit. So if you're desperate to do a night drive, it's important that your consultant knows so they can make sure that you stay somewhere where a night drive is permitted, because that isn't allowed everywhere. If you're going to go to several different destinations, you need to think about the time it takes to travel between those destinations. So if you're wanting to visit Cape Town, Kruger and Vic Falls, you can't do that in 5 days. You're going to spend time in cities between flights. You have to be realistic about the travelling time between the different locations and the logistics of reaching different parts of the African continent. You also need to consider your packing. If you're going to do any light aircraft flights, luggage restrictions are extremely strict for safety reasons. Normally it's going to be a total of 20 kgs of luggage in a completely soft bag. So if you've got a one-way flight, say between the camp and Kasane, and you've started your safari in Maun, that's going to be your luggage allowance for your entire trip. So if that's something you don't think you can cope with, you need to be sure that your safari takes a circular route so that you're able to store some excess luggage and pick that up for the rest of your trip.
I think we'll wrap up this session here. A typical day on safari varies from camp to camp, but generally speaking, if you're going on a traditional game viewing safari, it follows a specific kind of program, fits in with the natural rhythm of Africa. It fits in with the wildlife. It won't take long before you're in that rhythm where waking up at 5 in the morning is not a problem. We're going to bed early. And as soon as you click into that rhythm, that's when you'll start truly experiencing the magic of Africa and what a safari experience is all about. Check out our website in the link below, africanbudgetsafaris.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter for a monthly update. Subscribe to our 6-part email course in the link below. And of course, check out our reviews, see what our clients over the last 20 years have said about us. Thank you.